This topic is growth and development, school age, ages 5 to 12. So let's discuss the defining characteristics for school-age children. Erikson's theory of psychosocial personality development helps us understand how personality develops throughout a child's lifetime. So here in school-age children, they'll start to develop industry versus inferiority. Children of school age are very works-based in getting their validation. For example, in school, if they're getting good grades, they'll feel confident and feel more accomplished. They'll start to participate in group sports or group activities. If they receive good feedback that they're performing well, they will feel validated and confident. As opposed to other children, as you may see in the illustration to the right, who are performing poorly or getting poor feedback or reviews. They'll start to feel inferior and no longer be able to develop this confidence in themselves. Piaget's theory of cognitive development shows us how children develop their mental and thinking skills throughout childhood. So between the ages of 6 to 7, they start to develop pre-operational cognition. Children in this stage will start to become more curious, ask more questions. They want to understand what's going on around them. So they may be asking who, what, and why. They'll also start to implement make-believe play or even have an imaginary friend. Children of the age range from 7 to 11 will start to develop concrete thinking. This means that they'll start to understand time. They'll be very literal in their understanding of explanations. They'll be focused on rules. They may start to understand object mass. So, for example, if someone has a pencil, it's going to be the same size and length even if they break that pencil in half. In our older children, from the ages of 11 and on, they'll start to have formal operational thinking. This means they'll be able to understand more abstract thinking or hypothetical situations. They understand the future and thinking towards the future. They can also understand systems and processes in terms of thinking. Another important thing to highlight in this formal operational stage is that these children will start to develop their moral reasoning. They understand consequences, they understand between right and wrong, and they'll get to make those decisions for themselves. When it comes to our developmental milestones for our school-age children, we need to remember that their personality is really flourishing. They're becoming their own person and starting to understand their own interests, likes, and dislikes. They're also starting to be interacting with other children more often. So they'll start to develop cooperative or team play. Again, they may be participating in group activities, group sports. So they'll start to learn how to play with others, interact with others, and even initiate interactions with other children, as opposed to earlier on when they were doing more one-on-one play or autonomous play. They'll start to play into their interests more, so they may decide that they want to collect things that they like, such as stamps or certain toys. We really want to highlight that these kids are finding their personality, and we really want to enrich them in the things that they enjoy. They're also learning new skills and be able to think differently and more logically and more systematically. Their mental capacity and cognition is growing at such a rapid rate, and they're learning so much during their time in school. They become very rigid when it comes to rules or regulations. They'll be able to participate in games, such as board games. They may be very strict on the rules, and you have to follow those rules, or it may upset them if you go outside of those boundaries. And again, we're seeing such rapid development of their social and mental skills, so it's important to support them. They need to be interacting with other kids. They need to participate in these group activities so they can flourish, gain confidence, and meet their milestones. As we've spoken about in our previous presentations for growth and development, we always want to encourage wherever that child is in their developmental milestones. So here we talked about school-age children take a lot of their self-worth and their value in their work. So even when they're in the hospital for a short or a long-term stay, we need to make sure that we're providing opportunity for them to continue to do their schoolwork. We also want to encourage participation in group play and allow them to socialize with other clients within the hospital. Speaking directly to the child whenever you're talking about or explaining certain cares, assessment, or procedures is important. Remember, they've gained autonomy and they should be a part of their care. This is really important so that we're not just speaking to the parent about the care, we're also including and speaking directly to the child. Offering praise frequently whenever the child does something well or completes a task. This may include whenever they finish their schoolwork in the hospital stay, or if they've completed a procedure and they've done a great job with that. We always need to make sure that we're encouraging them. And when we do start to explain procedures or our cares directly to the child, we need to make sure we're doing that in an age-appropriate way. Children of school age are very literal in the way that they understand things. So for instance, if we say, I'm going to take your vital signs, or I'm going to take your blood pressure, they can interpret that as you're taking something away from them, and this can be uncomfortable or even upset them. So another way we can tell them these things is to say, let's check your heart, or let's see how big your muscles are. Let's discuss some of our teaching that we can implement for our caregivers. Encouraging children to participate in household tasks is going to be really helpful for them to understand that they are contributing to the household. So family contributions may include cleaning the dishes, taking out the trash, and setting the table. School-age children need to be involved in this so they feel that they are actually contributing along with other family members. Safety and injury prevention. This means if they're riding their bike, they need to wear their helmet. If they're involved in sports, they need to be wearing their sports equipment. These kids are very active and participating in many group activities, so ensuring they're doing this safely is important. Use of media-related activities. School-age children can be invested in video games or have access to the internet, so we want to make sure that they're limiting this screen time, about 1 to 2 hours, or what's best recommended. Caregivers and parents also need to implement parental controls. We don't want children to have full access to the internet or to all TV shows or movies, making sure they're only watching what's age appropriate. Implementing healthy eating patterns. These children need to be eating 3 meals a day. They need to have a serving of fruits and vegetables with each meal, ensuring that they're eating enough calcium, and limiting any of those sodas or fruit juices. We want to make sure that they're not taking in a lot of sugar or nutrient-lacking foods. And creating achievable goals. Remember, these children love to be able to accomplish tasks, be validated, and get positive feedback. This is where they're going to gain their confidence the most. So allowing them to create goals for themselves, whether it be at school or in sports or at home, is extremely important. And ask them what they'd like to accomplish and help them do that. Anticipatory guidance for our school-age children is going to focus on decreasing risk and making sure that the child is safe and preventing injury. Bullying becomes present at this age, whether it be in person at school, or this can even occur on the internet. So we need to educate our caregivers to speak to their children about bullying, and we need to make sure they know if they see another child being bullied at school, they need to intervene and break the chain of bullying. If they're being bullied themselves, they need to report this to an adult. And if they know about or are personally being bullied on the internet, known as cyberbullying, this is where a child can become very confident behind a screen. They don't have to face another child to actually start to bully them. Children need to know about this, be careful of this, and also report it if noticed or experienced. Motor vehicle safety. All school-age children need to be in the back seat and wearing their seatbelt. If they're still requiring any type of car seat or booster seat, caregivers need to follow the current recommendations and guidelines. Water safety. Every single child needs to be supervised around a body of water, even if they've learned to swim. We never want to leave them alone by a body of water, and we also want to make sure they're wearing the appropriate safety equipment, such as a life jacket. Firearm safety. Caregivers need to know to be able to keep these firearms in a safe place that's locked and away from the child so it is not accessible. We want to prevent any type of injury. School-age children do not need to be left home alone. They need to be supervised, and this is again so that we can prevent them from hurting themselves. And wearing protective equipment always, whether it comes to wearing a helmet when riding a bike or a skateboard, or wearing their appropriate sports equipment when participating in group sports.